Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, yesterday's talk, I thought maybe if I give a quick summary and go over certain points, it may have been a bit too much to digest, and then inshallah we'll continue. So I thought to provide them on slides, although I didn't initially aim to do it. There was one Quranic verse which I had to do on the slide. So I was preparing that, then I said, let me do the other points on the slides too. So the summary so far is that our journeying towards perfection is predestined. It's the way we were created. Although all the means were fit in, so we get to perfection in virtue. But we may encounter obstacles and we may fail, and we still reach perfection, but it may be perfection in vice. But that's a choice we make. Otherwise, that innate nature in any human being to go through perfection is there. It doesn't matter whether you're Muslim, non-Muslim. Then the next point was this journey to Allah, to absolute perfection, is the journey of the hereafter, and the outcome would be either salvation or wretchedness. So salvation and wretchedness, these are functions of the hereafter. That's how you have to look at these two terms. Or if you want to use benefit and harm, these two also, we're not looking at it as worldly concepts. We're looking at them as hereafter related concepts. And in the hereafter, in contrast to the physical realm of existence, there's another set of rules which govern it, which we went through yesterday. Now, the fuel to this journeying of ours is knowledge and action. You are your knowledge and you are your actions. These two constitute your identity. These two determine where on the ladder of perfection you are situating yourself. So everyone has, from moment to moment, a given potential, depending on where they were born, who their parents were, ancestors, teachers, society, 1,001 different things bring about a potential in you. And everyone's potential is different. But that which constitutes you is your knowledge and your actions. And recompensation, reward or punishment, is one and the same as your actions. We've gone through that too. And your knowledge and actions construct your potential fate. These are just summarizing a few things. Now, all these things in the hereafter, it's based on cause and effect. Your recompensation, the actions that you do, how it's done, it's not just willy-nilly. They're all cause and effect. And then we brought a principle that every order, every design must have a manager, must have a designer. We understand that through rational concomitance. And we then said that the manager of us reaching fruition, that perfection of ours, inshallah, in virtue, the manager is the Imam. That was Allama Tabataba'i's point. And so in brief, the Imam providentially guides all creatures, enabling each creature to reach their innate potential, reach their constitutional nature. And for everyone it's different. But it's the Imam who makes you reach fruition. Now, does the Imam do it independently? Of course not. He's manifesting Allah's rububiyyah. Allah is Rabb. No one else is Rabb. Now, when Allah's rububiyyah wants to manifest, Rabb means nurturer. Nurturing your potential to make you reach and your perfection. Now this nurturer has a whole hierarchy of realms through which the nurturing arises. So when we say the Imam is the manager in your route to perfection, all that is required you get from the Imam, it's not as if we're saying it's the Imam independently. Otherwise, if we say that, we're saying the Imam is Rabb. That would be shirk. And actually Imam Rida alayhi salam said whoever assigns rububiyyah to the Imam, that's shirk. No, but you can manifest rububiyyah. Remember those talks on Tawheed where we said they have nothing, they're just reflecting. The mother also manifests a degree of rububiyyah. A school teacher, a nursery teacher manifests a degree of rububiyyah. But you have to look at them in hierarchies. Now, which hierarchy is this referring to when we say the Imam is the manager in this route? Inshallah, this will become evident as we progress. Now, in the verse, in the Holy Quran, and we'll come to the verses again soon, it says that the Imams are those who yahduna bi'amrina. They guide through our order, our amr. Now, here we have to open this up bit by bit. So guidance, there are two types. Amr, order, there are two types. Which ones are referred to here? Look, we have to understand the verse. And this verse, Allama Tabatabai, well, he was very strong in philosophy, irfan, tafsir. He could have easily become a manager, taqleed, and maybe one of the A'lams. A very close friend of his was Ayatollah Muhammad Hadi Milani. They were very close. But Ayatollah Milani went in marja'iyya and became a very strong marja. And after Ayatollah Burujadi, Allama Tabatabai said he is the A'lam, something very incredible. And but he was very strong in philosophy and irfan, but he went into marja'iyya. Allama Tabatabai didn't go into fiqh. He went into the rational sciences more. He said that there's more of a need here. Now he's saying the definition of imama is yahduna bi'amrina. This definition the Urafa of old had. People like Ibn Arabi, scholars of the 5th century, 4th century, 5th century, 6th century. These people spoke of imamat in this light. The Urafa such as Ibn Arabi would give the names of the 12 imams in his books. He would give the names individually. And then he would open up what imamat is. It was this definition. And it was from the Quran. And Allama Tabatabai is using the same. Now, Ibn Arabi in fiqh, he may have been a Sunni. It's very possible. But I put it to you, if someone's fiqh is a Sunni, but their doctrine on what is the Imam is on a par with the Quran, which is more important? Do you know what I mean? And the mentor of Allama Tabatabai said he did taqiyyah. That's very difficult to establish. Maybe he did do taqiyyah. But there's no need to insist he was a Shia by fiqh too. It's very difficult to do that. But he was definitely a Shia doctrinally. The way he's understood the Imam. Now let's say me and you, our fiqh, let's say it's Ja'fari fiqh. And alhamdulillah for that. But what is our imamat? Is that on a par with the Quran? And which one is more important? They're both important, but hierarchy-wise. So we shouldn't be complacent just because with a few rituals we do it on a par with the imams, which is a blessing, of course, but not at the expense of drifting away from pure Muhammadan aqa'id. And it's all in the Quran. Yahduna bi'amrina, a very important phrase. It's the key everything else will always keep coming back to this phrase. And it's in the Quran. Now, guidance, there are two types, legislative and providential. Legislative guidance is when the guide presents you the way, shows you the way, tells you the do's and the don'ts, what to do, what not to do, and so on and so forth. This guidance is not meant in this verse, because the prophets which are referred to in this verse and other verses, for years they were prophets. They had legislative guidance from years before. And we're going to go into detail with a verse in relation to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. When they were Nabi, they had legislative guidance from a long time ago. So it doesn't make sense to say they are legislatively guiding now. They've been doing it for a long time. Remember we said A'imma, Imams, the definition was Yahduna bi'amrina. And even linguistically we showed why this is a definition of Imams. So in a specific essential definition of the Imam, don't bring legislative guidance, which is something essential with prophets. There's no problem, someone can be a prophet and then they become an Imam. They can be a Rasul and then they become an Imam. But with Imamat, something different is added to the picture. Don't say legislative guidance then. So this guidance, Yahduna bi'amrina, it's another form of guidance. Providential guidance is actualizing one's destination. It's not just presenting the way to someone. It's actualizing that person's potential. Doing all that's necessary for that person to reach their potential. And that's based on each individual's potential, and it's executing the cause and effect mechanisms that enable one's given potential to be attained. And I'll explain more on that in a minute. So, these verses pertain to legislative guidance. Chapter 33, verse 45, Ya ayyuhan nabi. So it's talking to the prophet as a prophet here now. Inna arsalnaka, we've sent you as a witness, shahidan wa mubashiran wa nadhira. There's a typing error at the end of nadhira. The alif has been missed out, sorry. So here, a prophet warns. A prophet gives glad tidings. That's the nature of a prophet. Or in chapter 5, verse 99, Ma ala rasul illa al-balagh. There's nothing upon the messenger now, looking at the prophet, but as a messenger. The only duty for them is balagh, propagation. Look, this is presenting the way, propagating to the people. And then in chapter 88, verses 21 and 22, فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرْ. So remind them, after all, you're a reminder. A prophet reminds. That's on a par with legislative guidance. لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. You're not someone who controls over the affairs. You don't, over the people, control their affairs. As a prophet, you don't control their affairs. Look. So controlling the affairs is a reality. Allah does control people's affairs. A prophet, as a prophet, does not control the affairs. A messenger, as a messenger, doesn't control the affairs of a people. But a prophet or a messenger, if they have the added responsibility of imamat, this controlling of the affairs becomes legitimate. And the verses in verse 88, in chapter 88, the following verses, so you're not controlling over them, إِلَّا مَنْ تَوَلَّى وَكَفَرَ, except those who turn away and disbelieve. There, what's the consequence? فَيُعَذِّبُهُ اللَّهُ الْعَذَابَ الْأَكْبَرِ, the punishment of Allah. And this punishment of Allah, for those who did something, they disbelieved, they turned away from Allah, this punishment which they will get, yes, now you will be musaitir. As a prophet you're not, as a Rasul you're not. But here, there are places where you do become musaitir. So being musaitir, being a controller over the affairs, here this is to do with imamat. And then chapter 21, verse 73, وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا. Here, يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا is not legislative, it's providential again. Because they were prophets for years and years. Now they are imams, it still says, you guide through our command. This is something different. It's the controlling over the affairs. In brief, imamat is manifesting Allah's lordship. Allah's the nurturer. A maximum manifestation of that is the imam. And you see that in the hereafter. And right now we're building our hereafter, moment to moment. Now, so, very logically, we can make a rational conclusion based on what we've gone through so far. In this syllogism, premise 1, guidance of the Imam is other than guidance of the Prophet. That was legislative. The guidance of the Imams is something else. Premise 2, the guidance of the Prophet or the Messenger was just presenting the way. Premise 3, guidance may be legislative, presenting the way, or providential. And so the conclusion is guidance of the Imam is providential in type. This yahduna bi'amrina, very rationally, based on the Quran, based on the indicators in the Quran with the stories of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ishaq and Ismail and Yaqub and others, we see that when they were given the status of imamat, they were managing the affairs of people. Affairs of what? Their journey to the hereafter, their journey to reaching their destination. Whatever their potential was, they would actualize it for them. It's Allah's rububiyyah in play, but it's through the imam. So this is essential to being an imam, irrespective of whether the imam has been given the duty to legislatively guide or not. Because an imam may not be a prophet sometimes. An imam may not be a rasul. But that which is essential to the imam is this idea of providentially guiding. It's a providential guidance. Okay, now, so that was just a summary, and then inshallah, if there are questions after, we can cover it. Now, yahduna bi'amrina. This is the next part of the phrase, and it's bi'amrina. So there's a ba preposition, then amr, which means order, na, which means our order, meaning divine order, divine Allah's order. So the imams, who are they? Yahduna, those who providentially guide through our order. Now, this ba preposition in Arabic is called the el-saqi ba, which I very loosely translated it as the ba of fabric. Now, what do I mean by that? Look at this verse of the Holy Quran in chapter 39. خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بِالْحَقِّ. Bilhaq. And what this means is that which follows the ba preposition, which is al-haq, is the very fabric of that which precedes the ba preposition. So the heavens and the earth, it's inside, it's outside, it's all haq. We call it the ba of fabric. Now, with that in mind, the imam is defined as yahduna, providentially guiding through our command, through the divine command. What does this mean? It means this guidance of the Imam, which you're saying is providential, it's all Allah's command. The very fabric of this providential guidance, it's all Allah's rububiyyah, it's all Allah's order, it's all Allah's command. Nothing else. It's like this خلق السماوات والأرض بالحق. It's like we say Bismillah ar-Rahman, we say Bismillah. When you're eating, you say Bismillah. Every action you do, you say Bismillah, the ba preposition. You eat Bismillah, you read Bismillah, you walk Bismillah, you sleep Bismillah. Every chapter of the Holy Quran starts with Bismillah. What does it mean? It means that ba preposition, Bismillah, that it means Ismullah, which the ba preposition is suffixed to Bismillah. What's preceding it? Any given action, reading, sleeping, eating, working. That work, that eating, whatever you're doing, it's all Asma'ullah. It's all Allah's attributes manifesting in your action. Now, to what degree that depends. There's nothing outside the jurisdiction of Allah's attributes. It's all Allah, it's all Tawheed. We went through it in Zanzibar. I don't think I've spoken about Tawheed more than to any other community than Darus Salam now. It's all Tawheed. It's all Him. There's no need to panic. No one is taking Allah's place. Be rest assured. The Imams, as we said, they're safekeepers. They have nothing of themselves. They only reflect. God forbid, no one is saying they are the Lord. We're saying it's all Allah in action. Allah is saying it's all Allah in action. But when it says Bismillah, Bi'amrina, Bilhaq. So here in this verse, when it says Yahduna Bi'amrina, Allah's order, and we haven't defined what order means yet, Allah's order is the very fabric of the Imam's providential guidance. So Allah's command emanates from the guidance of the Imam. He's just reflecting Allah's order, Allah's command. Now, some people may say Amr is a legislative Amr. Command or order. Some say this is what it means. They're guiding through Allah's do's and don'ts, the legislative commands, the legislative order. Because Amr means order, ordering. They say this is a legislative ordering. So this providential guidance is through telling people what to do legislatively. Well, that doesn't work well with providential guidance. It doesn't make too much sense. You're saying the guidance is providential. It can't be legislative because Nabi Ibrahim was a prophet. He was legislatively guiding before. When he became an Imam, he's now given an essential criterion of Yahduna Bi'amrina. So now we've established the guidance is providential. Why do you insist to say this is through legislatively ordering? Didn't he have that before? Oh, yes, he did. When he was a prophet, when he was Rasul, he would legislative order also. So this isn't a legislative ordering. This bi'amrina, that this providential guidance through our command, through our order, the divine order, Allah's order, this order isn't just the do's and don'ts again. It's a providential order again. Now, what's Allah's order in the providential sense? There are many verses in the Quran which highlight this. In chapter 17, verse 85, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ, they ask you about the ruh. I'm surprised with the many translations of the Quran. They translate ruh as the soul. You know, the soul is something very evident to everyone. Everyone knows they have a soul, they have an eye. And they translate this ruh as something which is very evident for everyone. they translate it as soul, and it's nothing to do with the soul here. تَنَزَّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالرُّوحُ. This ruh is an entity even greater than angels, greater than Jibreel, Mikael. It has a specific purpose. We'll come to it in a minute, but it's not something which I want to open right now. But they ask you about the ruh, ar-ruh. قُلْ الروح من أمر ربي. The ruh pertains to the order of my Lord. من أمر ربي. Highlighting, there it said بأمرنا, through our command. This ar-ruh, which is an entity higher than Jibreel, higher than Mikael, and it has a specific role in the hierarchy of existence. It says this pertains to the order of my Lord. So this itself shows it's something metaphysical. It's not something physical or something at hand which everyone can see. It's not pertaining to the physical realm. Or for example, in chapter 36, Surah Yasin, the last two verses, إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ, Allah's order, His order. It's defining it here. إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. Whenever He wills a thing, He says be, and it is. And then فَسُبْحَانَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ مَلَكُوتُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. And immaculate is Allah, in whose hand is the malakut of all things. Look, the order, the amr of Allah is when He wills something, He says it be, and it is. And this be and it is, everything we see in the physical realm of creation is a result of Allah's order, saying be and it is. Then it happens in the physical realm over a period of time, because the physical realm has time, place, and so on and so forth. It's gradual. But Allah says be and it is. The final verse which succeeds it says, immaculate is Allah, in whose hand is the malakut of all these things that you have. So the malakut is the cause of all things. And Allah Tabu says it's Allah's order. It's not something physical. It's of a higher realm. It's an immaterial realm. Now this is just a rough drawing. So imagine the Malakuti dimension, the divine order, although there are many other dimensions even after the Malakuti dimension. It's not just one dimension. The realm of immateriality is infinite. But this divine order is the cause to the bringing about of things in the physical realm. So what we see here, it's the zahir of a batin. And the batin is the Malakuti realm or Allah's order. The Imam providentially guides through our order. Now, I'm going to speak about this another lecture, but to understand what the Imam does, you have to understand the levels of the soul of the Imam. Many people, all they know is their animalistic soul. Many people may have higher levels where they've reached certain levels, and in addition to the physical body, they have access to higher souls. Remember in the Recognizing the Soul lectures, we were dividing it into a semi-immaterial level of the soul, an immaterial level of the soul. There are even higher levels than the immaterial realm, and so on and so forth. There's something we have access to also. So first we have to understand the man, the different levels the potential man can attain to, what those levels are, and then you can understand the Imam. if someone has reached the Malakuti Dimension, they're going to manifest Allah's divine order. And whatever is at stake in this journey from A to B, everyone with their own potential in reaching that destination, the divine order through the Imam is going to give it to you, is going to grant it to you. The Imam is the exiter, so to speak, as we discussed in those lectures. But is the Imam independently exiting people from their state of potentiality to actuality? Of course not. That's it. Now, the levels of the soul, that's another discussion. We will discuss it later. Because when we want to discuss ilmul ghaib, there's some things you have to know about the levels that man can attain to. Can man reach Kitab? In the Quran it says you can. In the Quran it says that you can. So what about when the Holy Prophet lost his camel or lost something, said, "Where's my camel?" Why didn't he know? It's a legitimate story. When the munafiqeen, he didn't know which of these people are munafiqeen. Some people, they look at two sets of ahadith. One set of ahadith is on a par with verse of the Quran which says the Prophet didn't know. And then there's another set of hadith which is on a par with other verses of the Quran which says the Prophet had ilmul ghaib, had Kitab. Me and you can reach Kitab and Lawh Mahfuz too. I'm going to go through this in detail later. It's just one point I want to make here. So they say, what's happening here? These two don't fit in. They can't make them compatible with one another. So they reject one of them. That's all they understand. And they actually say, this is not rational. Our aql doesn't accept this. They use the verse of the Quran which shows that their Prophet didn't know something. But when it comes to those verses where a prophet or even a non-prophet has access to Kitab, that they don't understand. When it comes to those traditions, they reject the traditions. They say, no, these traditions are qulub, so to speak. They're exaggerated. They've passed very dangerous thresholds. Now, I'll give the story of what happened from the very beginning and how many people were accused of qulub. Because no one would understand the verse of the Quran in the beginning. They were very difficult concepts to digest. If Abu Dhar knew what was in the heart of Salman, he would have killed Salman. We have these stories and ahadith. Why would Abu Dhar kill Salman if he knew what was in the heart of Salman? The tawheed of Salman was a bit higher. If Abu Dhar knew, he couldn't tolerate it. He would call Salman qulub, for example, and so on and so forth. So everything is in the Quran. Nothing has been added to religion. But definitely our intellects have evolved. We're understanding more and more. And actually, towards the end of the times of the Imams, you see more and more people now understanding more and more things now. Okay, now, so here, whatever one has in this realm, power, knowledge, sustenance, everything, which is one factor which leads you to your perfection, is through Allah's rububiyyah. There's no doubt there. But this has a hierarchy of cause and effects. This lordship of Allah manifests in a hierarchy of ways. And one of those hierarchies is the Malakuti Dimension. And this Malakuti Dimension is in unity with the Imam. The Imam manifests this as a result of his strong spiritual state. He's passed certain tests. Nabi Ibrahim passed certain tests before he was given this Imamate. It wasn't given to him before. So who was the Imam before? Because with this definition, the world can't be without an Imam. It's like saying Allah is without his lordship now. You're saying Allah is manifesting. When Allah wants to manifest His curing attributes, it's through doctors, for example. If there are no doctors, where are we going to see curing things? You can't abolish all the system and hierarchy of cause and effect. Allah is working through these cause and effects. These cause and effects are manifestations of Allah's attributes. So if Nabi Ibrahim wasn't the Imam, who was the Imam when Nabi Ibrahim wasn't the Imam? It's an important question. The story of Musa and Khidr. Allahu Akbar. What a story. The secrets in this story. This is one of them. Musa wasn't the Imam at that time. He was a Nabi. He was a Rasul. But the Imam was Khidr. Maybe Khidr wasn't a prophet, and maybe more likely that he wasn't, although some of my teachers say he was, some say he wasn't. That is not very important, but he was the Imam. Although that story, I don't want to really enter too much right now, but it has a lot to, I don't want to divert. Okay, now, based on what we've said, now look what Allama Tabatabai is saying. There's an institute in Australia, Tawheed Institute, and it's managed by a team. Actually, a very good Khoja brother is managing it in Australia. And Al-Mizan was translated to some degree by someone you should all know, Sayyid Akhtar Ridwi. May Allah enlighten his soul. And at the time it was the best we had. It was very precise. This translation is now more evolved, it's more lucid, it's easier to understand maybe. It may have some errors now and again, but it's the best that we have, and it's a very good project. And so I did contact the brother to get permission just to quote, and I even got permission from him to, if I could edit certain parts which I felt may not be. And he's a very kind brother and he allowed it. So, Allama Tabatabai writes, and the Almighty is saying, guiding through our order, يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا. He's saying this, it very clearly proves that whatever is related to the order of guidance, and that is the hearts and the actions, it's the hearts and actions which are guided. Its inner reality and truth is in unity with the Imam. And its order, Amr dimension, is present before the Imam and not absent from him. It is evident that the hearts and actions are like all other things. How? In their being in possession of two dimensions, two aspects. Therefore, the reality of the deeds of man, both good and bad, is always within the presence of the Imam. Now he's used the word vision here. Always under the Imam's observation, and the Imam has authority over both ways. One, the way of salvation, and the other of wretchedness. Also, Allah has said, remember the day when we will call every people with their Imam. So when the Imam is the manager of your guidance, providential guidance, you're going to be raised with the Imam one day. Now this is Qiyamah, but it starts after death. When you die, you're going to see the Imam. And our Imam is the 12th Imam. And you may even see other Imams too, but our Imam is the 12th Imam. Are you going to see him in a happy state or a sad state? Depends on your actions. And here we have many traditions on this. Although this verse, I don't want to open it up now, but Allah may mention it here. Okay. Now, if I have time, now we want to start this verse in relation to Nabi Ibrahim. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَائِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. I should have brought the translation, but and when his Lord tested Ibrahim with words and he completed them, he said, Allah said, verily I'm going to assign you for the people as an imam. Now, I want to, because this is the Quran now, I want to show you what these scholars have been doing for centuries. So you don't think that they've just been sitting there and doing nothing. I want to show you the process of how they are extrapolating from this verse. So it starts with and, wa. I'm not sure if you have my voice. This wow, this and, there are different types of and in Arabic. One is the and of oath. When you swear on oath, you say wallahi. Say wallahi, wa. This has nothing to do with swearing on oath. We have another and. It's a de novo and, meaning it's like when you want to start a new paragraph, unrelated from what you've said before, you say and you start a new content. That's another kind of and. And the third kind of and is the conjunctive or conjunction and. For example, you say, coming to my house is Peter and, let's say, James. James is used in conjunction with Peter. Here, they always start, this is how the scholars, they look at the verse. They start from the beginning. This has to be established for them. So, there's no swearing on oath here. But then the question is this in conjunction with a preceding sentence or no? Is it something new here? It's a new paragraph starting. It has to be one of these two. And if if this and, that which follows it, if it's in conjunction with something before it, what was that something? They want to know what it was. Now here it says, and when your Lord, his Lord, tested Ibrahim. Okay? So, when your Lord tested Ibrahim is in conjunction with what? So they go back. Now this is verse number 124. They go back to 123, 122. Say, no, we haven't found it yet. They keep on going back until they come to Allahu Akbar, verse 30. 94 verses they went back. They look, wa'id. Look, when your Lord said to the angels, verily I am assigning on the earth a Khalifa. Assigning an Khalifa. Who? Inni. Allah. He's saying inni. Something only I can do. Inni. Verily I. Assigning is mine, Allah's. But look, it says there is here, and when your Lord said to the angels. In verse 124, this وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى, when his Lord tested Ibrahim with the words, that's in conjunction with that previous sentence of 94 verses before it. And they're both on assigning khilafah or imamat. You see? And they both have the idh. And I checked it. Yes, it's right. So this, when he tested Ibrahim, is in conjunction with when your Lord said to the angels that I'm assigning a Khalifa. So that's one theory. There's another theory which says, no, you've gone too backwards there. Although this is very clear cut. But then the question is, what about these 94 verses in between? Isn't it a bit too long? They say, no, actually, you have two verses. They're both on the assignment of the Khalifa or Imam. In between, there's a certain theme which is mentioned here, which is in relation to all this. They make these links. It's in hermeneutics, they call it. But there is another theory. This theory, so this is one theory. It's very clear-cut. It's very easy to accept. There are no problems with it. The only problem is that long gap where you can justify it in other ways. But there's another one which the Urafa have. That seems to be a favorite, but there's a reason why they choose this other one. They say, don't go 94 verses back, go 2 verses back. Ya Bani Israel, udhkuru, recall, ni'mati, my blessings, which I blessed you over for you. I gave you, I bestowed upon you. Here it says, recall my blessings which I blessed over you. In the verse that we're discussing now, إِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ, it's saying, look, it says, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى, and recall, and when your Lord, his Lord, tested Ibrahim. He says, they say, sorry, I have to keep on. They say, there's an udhkuru here, but it's deleted. And recall my blessings, Bani Israel. Recall my blessings which I bestowed upon you, and recall when his Lord tested Ibrahim. And that's okay, linguistically. There's no need to repeat the udhkuru again. And it's on a par with how Arabs speak. So they say this one seems to be a bit easier to accept, because you don't go 94 verses backwards. Now, here, so that's the first thing. Now this has a lot of connotations here. Which one is more correct? And I'll explain that in a minute. What's important here, though, is this word "id." It's translated as when. It's an adverb. And this adverb is succeeded by an adverbial clause. Adverbial clause. Can I just give one example before I come back here? Just sit down. If you say, he is in the house. Okay? He is in the house. In is a preposition. Following the preposition is the house. So this preposition and what follows it is called a prepositional clause. In the house. In is a preposition, the house is its clause. But when you see in the house, it's just a mere property, a relation. It doesn't have any actualization yet. In the house what? It's incomplete. You need a subject through which this can manifest. It's like saying white when there's no wall. That whiteness can only manifest through something. So they say this prepositional clause, in the house, it has to be knotted to something. It has to be linked to something. In Arabic they say muta'allaq. That which the clause is linked to in order for it to be actualized. So you say he is in the house. You say in the house, it's a prepositional clause. It's knotted to his being. Now you have a meaning. Being. That thing which the prepositional clause is knotted to, is dependent on, is associated with, has to be some form of action. So here it's the being of that person. He is in the house. Now, in the philosophy of linguistics, they say this prepositional clause is so dependent on the subject to which it's associated with. Being, for example, he is, this is. It's so dependent on it for it to be actualized, it needs it. It's as if the prepositional clause is absorbed in that subject. So much so that it doesn't matter where you bring the clause, before or after the subject. Even in English we have it. You say, in the house is Peter. Peter is in the house. In the house doesn't matter. You can bring it after the subject or before the subject. Because it's so absorbed in Peter's being, it doesn't matter, you can bring it here or there. This was an introduction to the main point here. Now, here, what we've said about preposition and the clauses coming after it. Now, here, is an adverb. And adverbs are succeeded with adverbial phrases. What we said about preposition and prepositional clauses, the same applies with adverbs and their clauses. So now we have an adverb with a clause, and this adverbial expression, it needs a muta'allaq, it needs a subject, it depends on it for this to be actualized. Okay? So what is the muta'allaq? What is the link through which إِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ is linked with? It has to be an action. Now, some say this when his Lord tested Ibrahim, that's the adverbial clause. It's dependent and linked to the udhkuru, which was deleted here. So recall when his Lord tested Ibrahim. When his Lord tested Ibrahim is the clause associated with udhkuru, recall. Some say, no, this adverb and that following it is associated with or dependent on this qala here. Allah said. Now, this has a lot of implications here. If you just bear with me, this is very, and it's only the Quran here. It's only the Quran. Now, when the Imam, the Ma'soom, extrapolates from the Quran something and tells us, that becomes a hadith. Hadith is never extrapolated from other than the Quran. All our ahadith, assuming the transmission is authentic, it's from the Quran. Now, it can be from the zahir of the Quran or the batin of the Quran. The batin is very difficult for me and you, but the zahir we have some understanding of. So look, adverbial clauses, they are associated with an action. Here, the adverbial clause is when his Lord tested Ibrahim. We say, okay, what is it dependent on? One group says udhkuru, which was deleted here. Recall when his Lord tested Ibrahim. The other says no. This is how you should read it. And when his Lord tested Ibrahim with words and he completed them, Allah said. So here, Allah said when Ibrahim was tested with the words, Allah said, Inni ja'iluka linnas. That's the second variation. The first variation was when his Lord tested Ibrahim, it was dependent on udhkuru, recall it. The second variation says, no, here, this Allah said, this clause is absorbed in this qala. And so, when you say qala, this adverbial clause, which is absorbed in there, there's a link between Ibrahim's being tested and Ibrahim's being assigned as the Imam. Where was the link? It's in Qala. Where in Qala? This adverbial clause, it's absorbed in it. However, if you say Udhkuru was here, and that the adverbial clause is dependent and is knotted to Udhkuru, what's the difference? What's the difference in ma'rifat? What are they both? What do they have? What don't they have? And this is the point which I'm trying to put forward. That here a question arises. When Nabi Ibrahim was given the station of Imamate, was it gifted to him or did he deserve it? Okay? Here, the scholars say, here, when his Lord tested Ibrahim with the words and he completed them, Allah said, Inni ja'iluka linnas imama. They say, look here, it doesn't say faqala. It doesn't say faqala. Fa means therefore. And since this therefore subsequence is not there, it's not necessarily linked. And if it's not necessarily linked, because there's no fa, it means this was more of a gift. Not a deserving thing. No one deserves Imamate. However, if the adverbial clause is knotted to qala, okay, there's no fa. But if that is knotted to qala, when it says, Allah says, Inni ja'iluka, I assigned the Imam for you, this phrase is absorbed in the qala. So there is a link, there's less of a gift factor. So there's no fa, which means it's a gift. But this is absorbed in qala, there's a link. The ibtila, the test, and the giving of imamat, they are linked a bit. It wasn't purely a gift. The urafot therefore chose the udhkuru variation. They say, no, this isn't absorbed in qala. It's nothing to do with qala. This adverbial clause is dependent on udhkuru. Udhkuru is deleted here, but it was mentioned in verse 122. Ya Bani Israel, udhkuru ni'mati allati. So we have a udhkuru here. Recall when his Lord tested Ibrahim. Okay, so there's nothing to do with qala here. It's not absorbed in qala, it's absorbed in udhkuru. So here, there's no fa, it means gift, and there's no link. With the previous one, there was a link in qala. But here now, with udhkuru, if that is the dependent, the muta'allaq, that which the adverbial clause is dependent and linked to, now it's not absorbed in qala anymore. So with the udhkuru, if udhkuru is there, it's even more of a gift now, because the non-linkage between the two is more prominent. I'm not sure if I've managed to explain this. It's very easy. Okay? Here, there are two sentences here. One is testing, one is the granting of imamat. Two sentences. These two sentences, are they linked with one another or not? That's the question. The more they're linked with one another, the less of a gift factor it is. The more they're not linked with one another, the more of a gift factor this imamat was. Here, if the adverbial clause is absorbed in qala, there is a less of a gift factor. He deserved it to some degree. Although that's compensated by there being no fa, this fa of subsequence, therefore it's a gift factor. But with udhkuru, there's more of a gift factor because of the absence of the fa and the fact that it's not absorbed or nothing to do with the qala anymore, because this adverbial clause, it's absorbed in udhkuru. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله.